Thank you so much. As Cónsul General Liliana Ferrer already introduced me, but I will just say it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. Me llamo Jonna Mazet, and I'm just thrilled to be here. I want to especially thank COINCyDES for inviting us and for hosting us, and to our honorable lawmakers, policymakers in the room, as well as business leaders and academic colleagues. It's just so lovely to be in this combination, because from our UC Davis delegation, we also have brought business leaders, lawmakers, policymakers, and academics, as well as community engagement individuals, and so it's just such a beautiful blend. I know that was by intention and not by chance, but it still is very comfortable and nice to be with you in that situation. Gary May gave a nice introduction to our new effort at UC Davis, and I'm very honored to be the first Vice Provost for Grand Challenges at UC Davis, where we're working together now to try to bring the disciplines as well as the sectors, public, private, policy, and education, academic, together to work together on the world's wicked problems. And we're doing that with partners like you. And we hope that as this meeting wraps up, we will have identified specific partnerships, in addition to those that we're already signing agreements about, to continue this great work together. I've been asked to talk to you about the One Health approach. So I've been a champion for One Health. What is that? Well, it is that same kind of approach that we're thinking of, that we're trying to apply to all the world's wicked problems. And it comes from the concept goes all the way back. It's ancient, goes back to Hippocrates. Those of you in the room that are health related, you take that oath, right? The Hippocratic oath to do no harm. But back all the way to Hippocrates, there was a recognition that what we do to the planet, what we do to each other, what animals are experiencing because of our behavior, those are all related to our health. So if I give you a little better look at that, if we think about human, animal, plant, and environmental health as the different circles here, at the intersection, we can recognize the problems that we are creating. Right? So we are creating lots of problems. I just gave you some examples here, but the important thing is that the drivers for these problems are all the same. And if we want to start to address these problems, we have to work together. And some people said to me, so in 2009 at UC Davis, I was the founding director of the One Health Institute, and some people said to me, well, that's nice, stay in your lane, do your nice research. And I've always said, without the private sector, and without the encouragement and support of government, we cannot operationalize anything we do in academia, right? We need to get our work into the hands of the consumer if it is going to impact actual lives and change the problems. So it's only together that we can really make these differences happen. And that includes products. We have to make those products. We have to do them in a sustainable way. I have some amazing colleagues in the room, and I hear from you all. You all brought amazing colleagues too, and I hope that we'll have some social time where you can work together and discuss some of those. My particular area of expertise is in emerging health, and that is one of our grand challenges that we're talking about today. And the grand challenges, again, is Liliana so nicely articulated, it's that bringing together of all of the disciplines, and again, all of the sectors that we can imagine to actually address these huge problems. In emerging health, I will tell you that I think that our biggest failure in the pandemic globally is that we had a lot of scientists waving the flag saying, hey, this is coming, let's get ready. But unfortunately, we didn't have the playbook for the policymakers to be able to actualize. So all these different factors came in, and what happened? The disease became political. And we saw policy being made on the spot and not informed by science because we weren't integrated, right? And that's what we can really, really never let happen again. So if I give you this sad story, right? We are seeing on the order of now 5 emerging infectious diseases of people each year. And the majority of those are diseases or viruses that we share with animals. And I stopped this sort of at the COVID-19 pandemic, but I'm sad to say we are in the midst of another pandemic right now. That is a pandemic in animals for avian influenza, and as of yesterday, the first human case has been confirmed by WHO in Chile. So we just can't keep going back to the way we've been doing things over and over and over again. It is time for us to think differently and be ready. And we have all the technology that we need. This is an example from a project I led. I was the global director for a USAID project called PREDICT for about 11 years. And we studied the viruses as a proof of concept in the animals. So in this green area, we call it the zoonotic pool, or those things that can be shared between animals and people. And what we wanted to do is see, can we know what's out there and what are the risk factors? These viruses don't jump out and get us, right? They don't, and the animals that carry them back don't jump out and get us. It's our behavior. It's our behavior and how we treat the planet and each other that is putting us at risk. And that means something great. That means we can change. Right? There's positive options there, but right now what's happening is we have the spillover, just like the avian influenza, the H5N1 that's happening right now, spills over from the wildlife hosts and into poultry or other domestic animals. We see things change in those intermediate hosts, and then they can spill over even more dangerous viruses or strains into people. We do not actually usually get ourselves ready to control any of this until way out here when it's too late. And then we're putting a Band-Aid. We're vaccinating late. We're doing all of those things. That is really what we want to change so that we know what's out there. We know the risk factors. We adjust them. So when these spillovers do happen, we're ready and able to jump in and act quickly. And I'm so pleased to be working with a lot of the international organizations and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Trust, to now start to be able to make vaccine pipelines so that we can have a vaccine within 100 days of any of the new viruses, the next disease X spilling over into our population. Our other grand challenges, besides emerging health threats, overwhelmingly, we must address the climate crisis. Also, sustainable food systems, and our version of reimagining the land-grant institution has a huge amount to do with addressing inequities, especially our history as a land-grant university, where we took the land from indigenous peoples, and then we had a promise. We had a compact, and that promise was we were going to work for the public good. But university systems didn't change to accommodate that promise. And at Davis, we're trying to do something different now in that realm. Reimagining the land-grant university also means, how do we work with industry? How do we change what we're doing so that we are providing practical information, useful research that cannot be operationalized? And how do we help faculty launch their companies so that other bigger companies might buy them and operationalize them globally later, and we can get those products that are useful for solving challenges into the hands of our communities? I'd like to talk to you, give you just a little more example. This is that proof of concept that I mentioned from the PREDICT project. And yes, we discovered a lot of virus. We discovered 177 new coronaviruses. We didn't discover the one, SARS-CoV-2, that causes COVID-19, because we weren't working in that area of China. But what we were able to do is we were able to identify the likely hosts. We were able to identify the ACE2 receptor in those hosts so that we started to understand the biology epidemiology of the viruses. We had people trained in laboratories that were detecting the very first cases introduced into their countries and putting their public health systems to work on day one rather than months later, like happened in my country. And we had those laboratories ready and able to go. And we had people, even in Africa, that had written papers on coronaviruses, the only people in their countries that were put onto their presidential and prime minister task force. And I think the most important thing is we started to train people to really use this One Health approach. Now, as we move forward, we're able to really think about emerging health threats differently because of that proof of concept. Now, we spent about $200 million doing that, identifying all of the processes we need. We know now that it would cost us $4 billion if every country in the world came together and worked on this and found every virus. And we could do that. And we could understand the transmission interfaces and how people get those viruses. I was told by WHO way before the pandemic, $4 billion, that's cheap, we have to do that. But where does WHO get its money? Where does FAO get its money? Policymakers have to have that priority to make that happen, and that wasn't there. That wasn't there before the pandemic, and we lost millions of lives and trillions of dollars, right? So hopefully we have a different sort of paradigm, but I'm not sure. I'm feeling that we're seeing fatigue. I'm feeling that this nationalism that sprung, it didn't spring up, let's be honest, it didn't spring up during the pandemic, but came to a head and came to the fore in a very different way, is preventing us. And even yesterday, I want to say one of the other things that this work allowed us to do is start to identify early warning systems. And for industry, the early warning systems are critical, right? If you can forecast where your employees might be at highest risk, or where the market might be worried because there won't be the supply chain because it will be disrupted, that would revolutionize how you made your business decisions. But right now, our early warning systems are not great. I mentioned avian influenza. Yesterday in Mexico City, Mexico was hosting the international, through the World Animal Health Organization, so it's the WHO for animals, was hosting the transboundary disease control meeting. And I'm sad to say, and I don't know if this will come to fore, but there was a resolution at the end of that meeting where South America and Central America were deciding to pull out of the global effort to control diseases like avian influenza. So they spent 5 days working on avian influenza and the strategies, and then suddenly all of our neighbors to the south said, yeah, fine, we're out. Wow, that is an early warning for business. You better be ready about what's happening at your borders. You better be thinking about how you're going to do business with countries in Central America, your neighbors right here, and for us, Chile, such an important country. So we really are concerned about that. What we've done is we're about to publish a roadmap that makes the case for bringing together academia, the private sector, and policymakers so that we never have what happened, like my laboratory discovering coronaviruses, not able to test our neighbors, even though we're testing for coronaviruses all over the world during the beginning of the pandemic. How frustrating, how devastating is that when we're seeing sick people and dying people and we can't test because we weren't integrated with the public health system. That has to change. That has to change. And our industry in the Silicon Valley, ready to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to remote sense where people are going to the clinics, where people were getting cold medicine, help us make publicly available really good information rather than disinformation. And yet the public health system said, no, you have no entry point. You have no on-ramp to work with us here. That has to change. So we've developed that roadmap and hope to get help. And then also we're starting to look at new tools and using machine learning and AI to start to say, okay, now everyone's looking at emerging threats and looking at viruses. What's out there? And how do we decide what's risky? And so we're starting to work with the international community to make hit lists, watch lists, decide what kind of platforms we need to operationalize for vaccines and therapeutics so we won't be in this situation again. Now, all of this is very related to the food system, as I mentioned, of course, poultry and everything with the avian influenza experience right now. But I want to give you just a little bit more on what we are looking at in sustainable food systems. Now, as Gary mentioned so nicely, we have some things to cheer about. We have some things to really be proud about, like being the #1 food and agriculture ranked university in our country and very well ranked around the world. And so #1 for agriculture, #1 or 2 for veterinary medicine always. And I'm a vet, so just touting that a little bit. But we need to improve the infrastructure for innovation in food, right? So we have new food products, cultivated meat, all sorts of things. Is it healthy? Is it actually helping us? I know Mexico, we learned yesterday that Mexico has a goal by 2050 to increase agriculture production by 70% in a sustainable fashion without using more water. Wow. That's a grand challenge, right? And we have to work together to innovate. And so at Davis, we are taking this challenge very, very seriously. Gary mentioned Aggie Square. And that's our new innovation hub where we hope to really make this happen, using agriculture specialists that have humidity and rain sensors on little tiny sensors on leaves and farms, right? All the way up to actually making the protein in your lunch more accessible so that you use it for muscle and that it doesn't just get stored and go to fat. I really want that one. So we're really, we're dealing with the grand challenge that our food system is so strained, and we're in a dichotomy as well. Sacramento is very food insecure. In fact, we're 40% more food insecure in our backyard than the rest of the nation. Even though those are the people who are growing, picking, bringing the food to market. We are the salad bowl, but we are insecure. So we have these huge inequities, and those inequities are mirrored in healthcare, education, and so many other things. Uh-oh, you don't like my, you don't like my fact, my... The salad bowl, we'll talk about. Oh, not salad bowl, I know. So I do that, I'm sorry. I don't know, bread basket, salad bowl, I know, salad bowl, Salinas, I'm sorry. It's nearby, it's nearby. It's all in California. All right. It does not, it does not.
It can be bread, it can be salad.
You still don't get any.
They look like us, that they don't have access to food.
Absolutely, and we have to fix it. And we have to fix it in a way that is completely equitable. The food is healthy, the food is fresh, and we're not doing that. So that's our goal. If you want to join us, we want to join you. I think that we have this continuum as neighbors, and we are really working to use our faculty, bring our faculty together to stop nibbling around the edges at these big, wicked problems. We have amazing people, and they are doing amazing things. Ermias can talk to you about reducing methane in the agricultural system, increasing nutrition out of our foods. But we're each doing little bits. We actually have 1,000 faculty members that somehow work on food and agriculture, and yet most of them don't know each other. So we're going to change that at home, and we want to know you and work with yours as well. So thank you.
Gracias. Extraordinary lecture. I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm an Eggman, and I know what avian influenza is. I know how to lose most of our chickens in one shot. I know how avian influenza is affecting the Mexican industry. 10 years ago, when we lost more than 40 million chickens here, only in the state of Jalisco. And I know how the U.S. is dealing now with the avian influenza, and how it's losing more than 40 million chickens but not only in one state. It's because Jalisco is a champion. Jalisco has more chickens than Iowa. That is the largest egg producer in the United States. Jalisco is even bigger than that. Jalisco is, as the California is a country, is the fourth largest economy in the world. If Jalisco is a country in the poultry matters, Jalisco will be something like the 6th or 7th largest country in the world. Then it's very important, and I completely agree with you. One world, one health. In the near future, the next headache of the human beings will be this kind of pandemics, first, and pandemics issues. Unfortunately, poultry will be in the center of the scenario, unfortunately. We have in Mexico almost 700 million layers and chickens, of over 700 millions of heads of poultry in Mexico. Then it's more than 4 times the number of inhabitants of our country. Then we have a lot of chickens, and those chickens are North Americans. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Those chickens are North Americans. Then it's my privilege to present Ermias. Please. We are so linked to UC Davis. We have a lot of Mexican researchers and professors in UC Davis University. Very good ones. And most of them are really helping a lot, not only the poultry sector, but the livestock sector. Mexico is the 5th largest livestock producer in the world. Livestock as chicken, pork, cattle, and all these kind of food proteins that we are offering to the consumers. The 5th largest in the world. And one of the most important universities for us is UC Davis. Thank you for coming.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I think we can talk about livestock all day long, but I'm here representing the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, so I'm going to have to make it a little bit more broader than livestock. So the college actually publishes more papers than any other universities in the world. In fact, any other organization except USDA. And how we do it? Well, we have about almost 400 faculty that are working in different areas in agriculture. There are about 7,500 students, undergraduate students, about 1,000 graduate students. And in terms of majors, we have 29 majors in undergrad and 22 majors in grad school. So it's very, very broad. And any kind of discipline within agriculture, I'm sure you will find within the college. It's organized in kind of 3 pillars. We have the agriculture pillar, like plant sciences, animal sciences, plant pathology, and things like that. And then we have the environmental pillar, things like environmental science and policy, entomology. And then we have the humanities pillar, that works into community rural development and things like that. So it's quite comprehensive in that regard. And with the strategic plan that we have 4 main things that we want to cover. One is sustainable food systems, as Jonna was talking about earlier. Sustainability is the core of the business that we have in this college. And basically trying to produce safe and accessible, healthy food, but without damaging the environment as well. So we have to take care of the environment. The way that we produce those foods have to make sure that we take care of the environment. And the second strategic plan is looking at equitable and healthy communities. So we need to have equitable, healthy, vibrant communities in order to have a sustainable future. So we're working with families and food as medicine, and so integrating all of that into what we do in the college. And the third one is the ecosystem viability and functionality. So obviously we have to have a healthy ecosystem in order to have a sustainable future. Biodiversity is one of the things that is quite challenging at the moment. We are losing a lot of biodiversity around the world. So we are working to improve that, both in natural habitats as well as in man-made habitats as well. We're doing conservation. We have a Department of Wildlife Conservation, and trying to make sure that a lot of those wildlife are being conserved, and we are not using too much of the resources. And the fourth one is climate change. So the climate change goes through all of the stuff that I've talked about. It's one of the wicked challenges. And so we try to address climate change in different ways. A number of departments working, for example, in carbon sequestration, reducing emissions from plants and then from livestock. So I'm a livestock person working mostly to try to reduce the environmental footprint of livestock, particularly in greenhouse gas emissions. Methane emissions in particular is quite a big problem from ruminants. In California, we have 1.8 million dairy cattle, which is the largest amount in the US. And so you can imagine there's a lot of methane that's being generated as well. So we're trying to reduce that as much as possible. You know, we have some solutions right now, about 30% or so, but we want to go much, much higher than that. A couple of things I want to mention before I wrap up is the viticulture enology department is very well known, and it's very important for Mexico, and particularly northern Mexico and California. So there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate in that area. And the other one is water and drought. And there are experts here. Sam Sandoval is over there, so he's been working on that for a while. Nicholas Pinter, I saw somewhere also over here working on that aspect as well. So we have experts in the room that could talk about water and drought, and which is an issue for California and Jalisco as well. So I think there's a lot of room for us to collaborate. Thank you.